Emma here. I want you to say this out loud, right now, before you do anything else. Today, I'm going to sound like myself, but sharper. That's it. That's the whole promise of this video. Because in the next hour and a half, you're not just going to hear English, you're going to walk through an entire day from the moment you open your eyes to the moment you close them again. And at every single stop along that day, I'm going to hand you a word or a phrase that upgrades what you already know how to say. Not a rare, dusty word you'll never use. A word a fluent adult reaches for without even thinking, in exactly that situation. By the end of this, you will have somewhere between 60 and 70 new pieces of vocabulary sitting comfortably in your mouth, not just your notebook, because you're going to say every single one out loud with me more than once. So here's the method, and I promise this takes less than 2 minutes to explain, because I'd rather use our time practicing than lecturing. Most people learn vocabulary the wrong way around. They memorize a word first, then go looking for a sentence to put it in. That's backwards, and it's exactly why the word disappears from your memory 2 days later. Your brain doesn't hold on to information. It holds on to experience. So what we're going to do instead is start with the moment, the real, lived, specific moment, and let the word arrive naturally inside it, the way it would if you were actually living an English-speaking day. I'll describe a scene to you. You'll picture it. Then the upgraded word shows up exactly where it belongs. I'll explain it in plain, simple English first. I'll show you the more basic word it's replacing, and then we'll use it together in a real sentence. My K on bif. Sometimes in a short conversation between two people, so you hear exactly how it sounds when it's actually spoken, not just defined. And throughout the day, I'm also going to slow down and show you how these words actually sound. When native speakers speak quickly, the way the sounds blend together, where the stress falls, how the music of the sentence rises and falls, because vocabulary you can't hear in fast speech is vocabulary you don't really own yet. Ready? Let's start the day. It's early morning, and the room is still holding on to the quiet of the night. You open your eyes, and there's this in-between feeling. Not quite awake, not quite asleep. In simple English, we might just say, I feel tired, or I feel sleepy. But a more advanced, more precise word for that specific fuzzy, slow, can't quite focus feeling is groggy. Groggy means you're only half awake. Your thinking is slow. Your movements are a bit clumsy. Almost like your brain hasn't turned all its lights on yet. It's the word you reach for instead of just tired, because tired could mean exhausted after a long day, while groggy is specifically that fresh out of sleep haze. Say it with me slowly. Groggy. Now imagine texting a friend first thing in the morning. They ask, "You up?" And you reply, "Yeah, just woke up. I'm still a bit groggy. Give me 10 minutes. Repeat that sentence with me. I'm still a bit groggy. Give me 10 minutes. Notice how natural that sounds. Much more natural than I am still very sleepy. On the other end of that same idea, some mornings you wake up and it's the opposite. Your eyes open and you're already alert, already sharp, full of energy before your feet even touch the floor. Instead of the plain, I feel very awake, a fluent speaker says invigorated. Invigorated means filled with energy and enthusiasm, often after something refreshing. A good night's sleep, cold water on your face, a walk outside. It upgrades the basic energetic into something that carries a sense of renewal, like your whole body just got recharged. Say it with me. Invigorated. Here's a small scene. Picture a woman splashing cold water on her face, taking a deep breath, and saying to her partner in the next room, "Wow, I actually feel invigorated this morning. I don't even need coffee." Repeat. I feel invigorated this morning. Feel the difference between that and a flat. I feel good. Let's slow down for a second here. Might again. And actually listen to how native speakers pronounce these words inside full sentences, because pronunciation and stress matter just as much as meaning. Take the question, what are you doing today? On its own, word by word, it sounds stiff. What are you doing today? But in real fast speech, native speakers stress the important words and let the small words melt into the background. It becomes, what are you doing today? Listen to the difference. Slow. What are you doing today? Fast, natural. Whatcha doing today? Try saying it slowly first with me. What are you doing today? Now try the fast, connected version. Whatcha doing today? That blending, where what are you collapses into something close to whatcha, is called connected speech. And once your ear catches it, understanding fast native English gets dramatically easier. Now imagine you're getting out of bed, and there's a particular kind of person who does this every single morning with total discipline, same time, same steps, no skipping, no negotiating with themselves. In simple English, you might say, she's very organized, or she does the same thing every day. But the sharper, more advanced word here is methodical. Methodical describes someone who does things in a careful, orderly, step-by-step way, following a clear system rather than acting randomly. It's a personality word, and it upgrades organized into something that specifically highlights the process, the steps, the discipline behind the order. Say it with me. Say it with me. Methodical. Picture a roommate watching someone lay out their clothes, check their bag, review their schedule, all before 7 a.m., and saying, "Honestly, you're so methodical in the morning, I could never." I repeat, you're so methodical in the morning. Not everyone is like that, of course. Some of us have the opposite instinct, the pull to put things off, to do anything except the thing we're actually supposed to be doing. In basic English, I don't want to do it now, or I'll do it later. The advanced, precise verb for that exact behavior is procrastinate. To procrastinate means to delay or postpone doing something, usually something important, often by doing less important things instead. It's one of the most useful C1 level verbs in English because it names a very specific, very human habit that basic English can only describe clumsily. Say it with me. Procrastinate. Here's a mini dialogue. One friend says, "Did you finish that report yet?" The other sighs and answers, "No, I keep procrastinating. I open my laptop and somehow end up cleaning my desk instead." First friend laughs and says, "Classic procrastination. Repeat the key line with me. I keep procrastinating." Now, here's something I want you to notice about your own morning, because this next technique is one of the most powerful tools for making vocabulary stick, and it comes straight from real shadowing practice. Myra. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it back immediately, right on top of the audio, almost like an echo. Almost like an echo. Not waiting until the sentence finishes, but speaking along as closely to the same rhythm and speed as you can. It trains your mouth and your ear together at the same time, instead of one after the other. So right now, I want you to shadow me. I'm going to say a sentence, and I want your voice coming in almost immediately, matching my rhythm as closely as you can, even if you're not perfect. Ready? I woke up feeling groggy, but a cold shower left me completely invigorated. Say it right with me. Echoing as I speak, don't wait. I woke up feeling groggy, but a cold shower left me completely invigorated. Nice work. That's real shadowing. And if you do that every single time I give you a sentence today, your fluency is going to grow faster than you expect. Let's stay in the bathroom mirror for one more moment, because this next word describes something almost every one of us does silently every single morning and rarely has a name for. You're getting ready, and your mind starts running through the day ahead. Organizing, sequencing, deciding what comes first. In plain English, I'm planning my day. The upgraded, more precise verb is prioritize. To prioritize means to decide which tasks are most important and deal with those first, ranking things by urgency or importance rather than just doing whatever comes to mind.
Say it with me.
Prioritize. Imagine a quick phone call. A colleague asks, "Can you look at the budget today?" And you respond, "I'll try, but I need to prioritize the client call first. That one can't wait." Repeat. I need to prioritize the client call first. Now let's step outside, because your front door just closed behind you, and the street is doing what it always does at this hour. Let's set the scene properly before the vocabulary arrives, the way a good storyteller would. Picture this. The pavement is still slightly damp. From overnight rain, there's a low hum of engines and distant conversation. Someone's rushing past with a coffee cup, and the whole street feels like it's holding its breath before the day really begins. In simple English, you might just say, "The street is busy," or "there are a lot of people." But the richer, more textured word here is bustling. Bustling describes a place that is full of energetic movement and activity. People hurrying, sounds overlapping, everything alive and in motion. Say it with me. Bustling. Here's a scene vast. A tourist calls a friend back home and says, "You wouldn't believe how bustling this city is. Even at 7 in the morning, it's like everyone's already awake and moving." Repeat. The city is so bustling, even this early. Some mornings, though, the opposite is true, and the street is jammed, barely moving, cars packed bumper to bumper. Basic English gives you "there's a lot of traffic." The advanced, more specific word is congested. Congested describes a road, an area, or even a system that is overcrowded and blocked, so full that movement becomes slow or difficult. It's a word you'll hear constantly in news reports, city planning, and everyday complaints about commuting. Say it with me. Congested. Picture someone glancing at their phone's map app and groaning. Ugh, the highway is completely congested this morning. We're going to be at least 20 minutes late. Repeat. The highway is completely congested. Let's build a longer conversation here, because commuting is one of those universal daily situations where two people naturally talk, and I want you to really live inside this one. Picture two coworkers who bump into each other at the bus stop. Both a little annoyed. Both trying to make small talk while checking the time. The first one says, "Hey, didn't expect to see you here. This route's usually pretty quiet." The second replies, "Yeah, normally, but the main road's completely congested today. There was some kind of accident, so everyone's rerouting through here." The first one nods and says, "That explains it. This stop is way more bustling than usual. Look at this crowd." The second laughs and says, "Honestly, I almost didn't recognize the place. It's usually just me and one guy with a dog." The first one checks their watch and says, "Well, at least the bus should still come on time, fingers crossed." And the second answers, "Let's hope so. I really can't afford to procrastinate on this meeting today." Now here's where we switch roles. I'm going to read the first person's lines again, and this time you answer as the second person in your own words. In your own words, using at least one of today's words if you can. Ready? Here's the line. "Hey, didn't expect to see you here. This route's usually pretty quiet." Pause the video for a moment and answer out loud, naturally, as if you're really standing at that bus stop. Take your time. When you're ready, here's an example of how a fluent speaker might respond. "Yeah, I know. The main road's totally congested this morning, so I had to come this way instead." While we're on the topic of listening, here's a real practical listening skill, because understanding fast native speech isn't about catching every single word. It's about catching the meaning. When someone speaks quickly, especially in casual conversation, you're not going to hear every syllable clearly, and that's completely normal, even for advanced learners. What fluent listeners actually do is grab the key content words, the nouns and verbs, and verbs that carry the meaning, and let the small connecting words blur past. And when you don't catch everything, you don't panic and ask them to repeat the whole sentence. You use short, natural responses that keep the conversation flowing, like, I see, that makes sense, or simply, right. Try this with me. Imagine someone says quickly, yeah, the whole thing got pushed back because the vendor didn't deliver on time. Even if you miss a word or two in the middle, you catch pushed back and vendor and didn't deliver. And that's enough to respond naturally with, I see. So that's why everything's delayed. Repeat that response with me. I see. So that's why everything's delayed. That's it. That's the whole skill. Catching the gist and responding naturally instead of freezing. Let's keep walking through this bustling, occasionally congested morning and notice the world around you a little more closely, because the next word describes something visually pleasing, the kind of scene you'd actually want to photograph. Say you turn a corner and there's a small park, sunlight coming through the trees, old stone benches, maybe a fountain. In simple English, it's a nice view or it's pretty. The richer word is picturesque. Picturesque describes a place or scene that is visually charming, almost like a painting, attractive in a quaint, scenic way. Say it with me. Picturesque. Imagine someone pausing mid-walk and texting a friend a photo with the caption, "Found this picturesque little park on my way to work. Might start walking this route every day just for the view." Repeat. It's such a picturesque little park. But let's be honest, not every part of a commute is picturesque. Some of it is just repetitive, gray, unremarkable. The same gray buildings, the same tired faces, nothing that catches your attention. Basic English says it's boring. The upgraded word is monotonous. Monotonous describes something that is dull because it lacks variety, repeating in the same way over and over without change, whether that's a sound, a routine, or a stretch of scenery. Say it with me. Monotonous. Picture someone describing their daily commute to a friend. Honestly, the drive itself is pretty monotonous. Same gray highway every single day. I basically just listen to podcasts to survive it. Repeat. The drive is pretty monotonous. Let's pause here for just a moment, not to learn a new word, but to actually let your mind rest. Seconds. Because a full day of intense vocabulary deserves the occasional short breath. Close your eyes for just a moment if you can while still listening. Picture yourself simply arriving somewhere calm, no pressure, no new information, just a few seconds of stillness. Take one slow breath in and one slow breath out. Good. That's enough. Let's keep going. Because there's a whole workday ahead of us, and it's full of exactly the kind of vocabulary that changes how capable and articulate you sound the moment you open your mouth in a professional setting. You've just walked through the door at work, and immediately the energy is different, more focused, more purposeful. Let's set that scene for a second. Laptops opening, the smell of coffee, someone already deep in a phone call at their desk, a general sense of the day gearing up. Your inbox is full, and the first task is deciding what actually matters. In simple English, I have a lot to do. But a much sharper way to describe an overwhelming amount of unfinished work, especially with a slightly frustrated tone, is a backlog. A backlog is an accumulation of work or tasks that have built up and still need to be completed, often because there wasn't enough time to deal with them as they came in. Say it with me. Backlog. Imagine a coworker glancing at their screen and sighing. I've got such a backlog of emails from being out sick last week. I don't even know where to start. Repeat. I have such a backlog of emails. To deal with a backlog like that, you can't do everything alone. So you hand off parts of the work to someone else. In simple English, give the task to someone else.
The precise
Professional verb is delegate. To delegate means to assign responsibility or authority to someone else, trusting them to handle a specific part of the work. It's a core leadership word, one that shows up constantly in workplace English. Say it with me. Delegate. Picture a manager in a quick meeting saying, I can't handle all of this myself. I'm going to delegate the client follow-ups to Sarah and focus on the presentation. Repeat. I'm going to delegate the follow-ups to Sarah. And when a whole process is messy, full of unnecessary steps, and needs to be made simpler and more efficient, in basic English, you'd say, make it easier or make it simpler. The advanced, very workplace. Common verb is streamline. To streamline means to make a process more efficient by removing unnecessary steps or complications. Simplifying it so it runs more smoothly. Say it with me. Streamline. Here's a small scene. Two colleagues review a clunky approval process, and one says, honestly, this whole thing takes way too long. We really need to streamline it, cut out at least 2 of these steps. The other nods and says, agreed. I'll draft a simpler version by Friday. Repeat. We need to streamline this process. Let's build a longer, more detailed office conversation here, because this is exactly the kind of contextual, multi-turn dialogue that makes vocabulary stick, not just float past. Picture a small meeting room, mid-morning light coming through the blinds. 2 coworkers sitting across from each other with laptops open, both slightly tense because a deadline is approaching. The first one starts, okay, so I looked at the numbers, and honestly, we've got a pretty serious backlog on the client requests. It's been building up for 2 weeks. The second responds, yeah, I noticed that too. I think part of the problem is the approval process. It's just too complicated. We really need to streamline it. The first one leans back and says, agreed, but that's a bigger project. For now, I think we just need to delegate some of these requests to the new hires, get them involved sooner. The second one hesitates and says, I have some reservations about that. They're still pretty new. What if they make mistakes on client-facing stuff? The first one nods slowly and says, "That's a fair point. But I think if we pair them with someone experienced for the first few, it could actually work well." The second one thinks for a moment and says, "Okay, I can get on board with that, as long as we're monitoring it closely at first." Now, let's switch roles again, and this time you take the second person's part from the beginning of that exchange. Here's the first line again. "Okay, so I looked at the numbers, and honestly, we've got a pretty serious backlog on the client requests. It's been building up for 2 weeks." Pause now and respond naturally as the second speaker in your own words. When you're ready, here's an example response. "Yeah, I noticed that too. I think part of the problem is the approval process. It's just too complicated. We really need to streamline it." Did you catch that word I used a moment ago? Reservations? Let's slow down on that one, because it's an incredibly useful, very natural word for expressing doubt politely, especially in professional English. In simple English, "I'm not sure," or "I don't fully agree." The more advanced, more diplomatic noun is reservations. To have reservations about something means you have doubts or concerns about it, even if you're not completely against it. It's a wonderfully soft, professional way to disagree without sounding harsh. Say it with me. Reservations. Picture someone in a meeting saying carefully, "I have some reservations about launching this early. I think we need more testing first." Repeat. "I have some reservations about that." When someone eventually accepts a point they were originally resistingly, basic English says, "Okay, okay, fine," or "you're right." The more precise, slightly formal verb is concede. To concede means to admit, often reluctantly, that something is true or that someone else is right, especially after some disagreement or resistance. Say it with me. Concede. Imagine a debate where one person finally sighs and says, "All right, I'll concede that point. The data does support your argument better than mine." Repeat. "I'll concede that point." Now, let's practice some pronunciation and rhythm again, because professional English has its own particular music, and stress patterns change, meaning more than most learners realize. Take the sentence, "I have some reservations about that." Native speakers don't stress every word equally. They stress the words that carry the important meaning. Listen. "I have some reservations about that." The stress falls on the key syllable of reservations and again on that, almost like two little peaks in the sentence. Try it slowly. First, "I have some reservations about that." Now try it with the natural stress pattern a little faster. "I have some reservations about that." Good. One more example, this time with rising and falling intonation. Questions in English generally rise at the end. "Do you have any reservations about this?" But statements generally fall. "I have some reservations about this." Say the question with rising pitch at the end. "Do you have any reservations about this?" Now say the statement with falling pitch at the end. "I have some reservations about this." Feel that difference? Because getting your intonation right is often what makes the difference between sounding like you're reading a textbook and sounding like you're actually speaking. Me speaking. Let's keep the momentum going here because you're doing genuinely great work. And I mean that. Staying with 60 plus new words in one sitting takes real focus, and you're handling it well. A little celebration before we move into the next part of the morning. We've already covered groggy, invigorated, methodical, procrastinate, prioritize, bustling, congested, picturesque, monotonous, backlog, delegate, streamline, reservations, and concede. That's 14 solid, real, usable pieces of advanced vocabulary, and we're not even at lunch yet. Nice work. Keep that same energy, because next, we're stepping into a meeting room where opinions clash a little, and you're going to learn exactly how fluent speakers disagree, explain themselves clearly, and stay diplomatic while doing it. When two people in a meeting see a situation completely differently, and neither one is really wrong, just coming at it from a different angle, basic English gives you, he disagrees, she thinks differently. Or, she thinks differently. The more precise, professional way to describe someone who states their disagreement clearly but respectfully, without hiding what they actually think, is candid. Candid means honest and direct in a way that feels open and sincere, sometimes surprisingly so, but without being rude. Say it with me. Candid. Picture a manager saying to a colleague after a tense discussion, "I really appreciate how candid you were in there. Most people would have just agreed with everyone to avoid the conflict." Repeat. I appreciate how candid you were. There's a difference, though, between being candid and being harsh, and this next word marks that line. When someone is candid but crosses into being too direct, almost careless about how their words land. In simple English, you'd say, he's very direct, or she doesn't hold back. The sharper word is blunt. Blunt describes someone who speaks in a very direct, plain way, sometimes without softening their words, which can come across as a little harsh, even if that's not the intention. Say it with me. Blunt. Imagine a colleague warning a new team member before a meeting. Just a heads up. Our director can be pretty blunt. Don't take it personally if she jumps straight to the point. Repeat. She can be pretty blunt sometimes. Now, when two sides in a disagreement each give up a little of what they want in order to reach an agreement that works for everyone, basic English says they agreed or they found a middle ground. The precise noun and verb here is compromise. To compromise means to reach an agreement by each side accepting less than they originally wanted, settling somewhere in the middle. Say it with me. Compromise. Picture two coworkers who've been going back and forth on a deadline, and one finally says, "Look, how about this? We compromise. You get 3 extra days, but the client gets a progress update every morning." Repeat. Let's compromise on this. And the person who manages all of this smoothly, who explains a complicated idea clearly, who expresses their thoughts in a way that's easy to follow and genuinely persuasive is described in simple English as a good speaker. The advanced, more specific word is articulate. Articulate, sick, means able to express your thoughts and ideas clearly and effectively, especially in speech, in a way that sounds confident and well organized. Say it with me. Articulate. Imagine someone leaving a meeting and telling a friend, honestly, the way she articulated her whole strategies in 5 minutes, no notes, was incredibly impressive. Repeat. She's so articulate when she presents. Let's build another full scene here, a longer contextual conversation, and I want you to really visualize this one. Before the dialogue starts, picture a glass-walled conference room. Midday sun coming through the blinds in thin stripes across the table. 4 chairs, but only 2 occupied. One person standing at a whiteboard. The other, seated with arms crossed, clearly not yet convinced. The one at the whiteboard begins. So, my proposal is that we shift the entire launch timeline back by 2 weeks. I know that sounds like a lot, but hear me out. The seated one responds, arms still crossed. I have some reservations about that. We've already told the client mid-month, pushing it back could damage the relationship. The one at the whiteboard nods and says, that's fair, and I don't want to dismiss that concern. But if we launch on the original date, the product genuinely isn't ready, we'd be releasing something with major bugs. Me! The seated one leans forward slightly and says, okay, I'll concede that a broken product is worse than a delayed one, but can we at least compromise on 1 week instead of 2? The one at the whiteboard thinks for a second and says, honestly, that could work. 1 week gives us just enough time to fix the critical issues. I appreciate you being candid about your concerns instead of just going along with it. The seated one finally uncrosses their arms and says, well, someone has to be blunt around here. Might as well be me. Now let's switch roles one more time. I'll read the first person's opening line again, and you respond as the second person. Here it is. So, my proposal is that we shift the entire launch timeline back by 2 weeks. I know that sounds like a lot, but hear me out. Pause here and answer naturally, in your own words, as if you're genuinely in that room. When you're ready, here's an example. I have some reservations about that. We've already told the client mid-month, pushing it back could damage the relationship. Let's practice connected speech one more time here. Because meeting room English moves fast, and a few sounds blend together in ways that can confuse even strong learners. Take the phrase, I want to. In careful, slow speech, that's 3 separate words, but in fast, natural speech, it almost always collapses into I wanna. Listen to the difference. Slow. I want to compromise on this. Fast, natural. I want to compromise on this. Try the slow version with me first. I want to compromise on this. Now try the fast, connected version. I want to compromise on this. One more example. The phrase going to, which in fast speech becomes gonna, slow. I'm going to delegate this task. Fast, I'm gonna delegate this task. Say the slow version. I'm going to delegate this task. Now the fast version, I'm gonna delegate this task. These little contractions aren't sloppy English. They're exactly how fluent native speakers actually talk, and recognizing them instantly will make real conversations far less exhausting to follow. Now, let's step out of that meeting room and imagine the workday sliding into midday, that particular stretch, when your stomach starts making its opinion known and your focus starts to slip a little. Picture yourself standing up from your desk, stretching, glancing at the clock, and thinking about lunch. When you finally sit down to eat with a friend or a coworker, and the conversation turns light, casual, a little playful, Basic English calls that joking around. The advanced word for that light, teasing, back and forth kind of talk between friends is banter. Banter is playful, witty conversation, fed, often full of jokes and teasing, exchanged quickly between people who are comfortable with each other. Say it with me. Banter. Picture two friends at lunch, one teasing the other about spilling coffee earlier, and a third person watching says, "I love listening to you too." It's nonstop banter. Repeat. It's nonstop banter with those two. At some point during that lunch, the conversation might turn a little more serious, and one friend starts talking about something from years ago, a memory, an old story. In simple English, remember the old days. The more elegant, slightly nostalgic verb is reminisce. To reminisce means to think or talk about pleasant memories from the past, usually with a warm, nostalgic feeling attached. Say it with me. Reminisce. Imagine two old friends at a table, one saying, "Remember our first job together? God, we were so clueless." And the other laughing and saying, "I love when we reminisce about that place. It was chaos. But it was fun chaos." Repeat. I love when we reminisce about the old days. And when your friend is going through something difficult, and you don't just feel sorry for them, but you genuinely lend, understand, and share their feeling, Basic English says, "I understand," or "I feel bad for you." The deeper, more emotionally precise verb is empathize. To empathize means to understand and share someone else's feelings. To put yourself in their position emotionally, not just intellectually. Say it with me. Empathize. Picture a friend describing a rough week at work, and the other says gently, "I really empathize. I went through something almost identical last year. It's exhausting." Repeat. I really empathize with what you're going through. After a long, intense morning of meetings and backlogs, lunch is also when your body and mind finally get permission to slow down. In simple English, relax or calm down. The richer, more specific verb is unwind. To unwind means to relax and release the tension or stress that's built up, gradually letting go of the pressure of the day. Say it with me. Unwind. Imagine someone taking a slow sip of coffee after finally sitting down and saying, God, I needed this. Just 5 minutes to unwind before the afternoon starts. Repeat. I just need a few minutes to unwind. Let's pause again here, just briefly, the way we did earlier this morning, because your brain has been absorbing a lot, and a short reset genuinely helps retention. For a few seconds, don't try to remember anything. Don't try to repeat anything. Just breathe. In, slowly, and out, slowly. Picture, if you can, sitting somewhere quiet for just a moment, maybe near a window. Sunlight on your hands, nothing urgent happening. Good. Let's continue, because the afternoon is where some of the most practical vocabulary of the whole day is waiting for you, especially if you work with any kind of technology, which, honestly, almost everyone does now. It's early afternoon, and you're back at your desk, screen glowing, trying to get something working properly, and it simply refuses to cooperate. In simple English, it's not working. The precise, very commonly used word, especially in tech and everyday conversation about devices, is malfunction. To malfunction means to fail to work correctly, to stop functioning the way it's supposed to, usually referring to a machine, device, or system. Say it with me. Malfunction. Picture someone staring at their laptop, frustrated, saying to a coworker, "The printer's malfunctioning again. It printed everything upside down for some reason." Repeat. The printer is malfunctioning again. When something small goes wrong, a minor, often temporary and slightly mysterious error, in basic English, you just say there's a problem, or it's not working right. The much more specific, very modern word is glitch. A glitch is a small, sudden, often temporary malfunction or fault, especially in a computer system or electronic device, the kind of problem that sometimes fixes itself if you just try again. Say it with me. Glitch. Imagine a coworker calling out across the office. Don't worry about that error message. It's just a glitch. Refresh the page and it'll go away. Repeat. It's just a glitch. Try refreshing the page. And the actual process of figuring out what's wrong and fixing it step by step, testing one possibility after another, in simple English, is trying to fix it. The precise, very professional verb is troubleshoot. To troubleshoot means to systematically identify and resolve problems, usually with a machine, system, or process, working through possible causes one at a time until you find the solution. Say it with me. Troubleshoot. Picture an IT technician on the phone saying calmly, "Okay, let's troubleshoot this together. First, can you tell me what happens when you restart the app?" Repeat. Let's troubleshoot this together. Let's build one more longer dialogue here, this time set in that very familiar, slight stressful moment of tech trouble at work. Picture an open-plan office in the middle of the afternoon, the low hum of computers. Someone. 2 desks, away audibly sighing at their screen. That person turns to a coworker nearby and says, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but my screen keeps freezing every few minutes. It's driving me insane." The coworker rolls their chair over and says, "Let's troubleshoot it. When did it start happening? Was it after an update or something?" The first person thinks for a second and says, "Actually, yeah. I think it started right after the system update this morning." The coworker nods and says, "That tracks. Sounds like it could just be a glitch from the update. Sometimes it settles down after a restart." The first person, a little skeptical, says, "I've already restarted it twice." The coworker shrugs and says, "Okay, then it might actually be a real malfunction, not just a glitch. Might be worth calling IT before it gets worse." The first person sighs and says, "Great, exactly what I needed on top of everything else today." Now, switch roles with me one more time, and this time you take the coworker's part from the beginning. Here's the opening line again. "Hey, sorry to bother you, but my screen keeps freezing every few minutes. It's driving me insane." Pause and respond naturally as the helpful coworker in your own words. When you're ready, here's an example. "Let's troubleshoot it. When did it start happening? Was it after an update or something?" Even when technology fails you, though some ideas and solutions are genuinely fresh, creative, ahead of their time. In simple English, a new idea or a smart solution. The more advanced adjective is innovative. Innovative describes something that introduces new ideas, methods, or products, showing originality and creative thinking rather than just repeating what's already been done. Say it with me, innovative. Picture a manager reviewing a proposal and saying, "This is genuinely innovative. I haven't seen anyone approach the problem this way before." Viscount. Repeat. This is a really innovative approach. Now let's do a quick shadowing round again, because your mouth needs to keep moving, not just your ears listening. I'll say a full sentence, and I want you echoing right along with me, matching the rhythm as closely as you can, starting almost the instant I do. Ready? "The system kept malfunctioning, so we had to troubleshoot it together before finding an innovative fix." Say it with me now, right on top of my voice. "The system kept malfunctioning, so we had to troubleshoot it together before finding an innovative fix." That's excellent, genuinely. That's a fairly complex sentence with 3 advanced words inside it, and you just said the whole thing out loud without stopping. That is real progress, and it's exactly the kind of sentence you'll actually use. As the afternoon stretches on and the energy in the room shifts again, a little quieter now, a little more focused, let's talk about how you personally handle pressure. Because this next word describes something genuinely admirable. When someone faces a setback, a mistake, a difficult moment, and instead of falling apart, they recover quickly and keep going. Basic English says she's strong or he doesn't give up. The precise, powerful adjective is resilient. Resilient describes someone or something able to recover quickly from difficulties, to withstand pressure and bounce back rather than breaking under it. Say it with me. Resilient. Picture a mentor telling a younger colleague after a rough project, "You handled that setback really well. You're more resilient than you give yourself credit for." Repeat. You're more resilient than you think. And that quality itself, the ability to keep trying, keep pushing forward despite difficulty, without giving up, in simple English, is not giving up. The more elegant noun is perseverance. Perseverance means continued effort and determination to achieve something, despite difficulties, delays, or repeated failure. Say it with me. Persevere. Imagine someone describing a colleague who finally succeeded after months of setbacks. Honestly, it wasn't luck. It was pure perseverance. She just refused to quit. Repeat. It was pure perseverance. Let's slow down one more time for rhythm and intonation. Because emotional, personality-related sentences like these often carry a very particular musical pattern in English, especially when we're praising or encouraging someone. Take the sentence, "You're more resilient than you think." Listen to how the pitch rises slightly on resilient, the most important word, and then falls gently by the end of the sentence, giving it a warm, sincere tone. Slow version. You're more resilient than you think. Now say it with that gentle rise and fall, a little warmer, a little slower than normal speech. You're more resilient than you think. Try it with me. You're more resilient than you think. Good. That warmth in your voice matters just as much as the vocabulary itself when you're encouraging someone in English. The afternoon light is starting to shift now, growing a little more golden, a little softer, and that's usually the moment your energy naturally begins to change too. Less sharp focus, more of a steady, winding down rhythm carrying you toward the end of the workday. We've now covered candid, blunt, compromise, articulate, banter, reminisce, empathize, unwind, malfunction, glitch, troubleshoot, innovative, resilient, and perseverance. Another 14 words on top of what we built this morning, which means you're already sitting on 28 solid, real pieces of advanced vocabulary, and we haven't even reached the evening yet. That's genuinely impressive work, and I want you to actually notice that in yourself for a second, not rush past it. Keep that same focus, because next, we're heading into the emotional, reflective vocabulary of the evening. The words fluent speakers reach for when they're winding down, being honest with themselves, and talking about how they actually feel. And after that, we've still got a full listening and shadowing deep dive, a self-practice exercise using your own surroundings, and a fast-paced fluency round waiting for us before the end. The sun outside has shifted from bright afternoon white to something warmer, more golden, And that light alone seems to soften the pace of everything. You're wrapping up the last few tasks of the day, and there's a particular kind of satisfaction that comes from finishing something you worked hard on. In simple English, I feel good or I'm happy about it. The richer, more specific adjective is gratifying. Gratifying describes something that gives you a deep sense of pleasure or satisfaction, especially because it feels earned, the result of real effort. Say it with me. Gratifying. Picture someone closing their laptop after finishing a big project and telling a coworker, "Honestly, it's so gratifying to finally send that off. We worked on it for weeks." Repeat. It's so gratifying to finally finish this. That feeling can settle into something quieter and steadier once the task is actually done, a calm sense that everything is exactly as it should be. In basic English, I'm happy or I'm satisfied. The more precise, deeper noun is contentment. Contentment means a state of peaceful happiness and satisfaction, a quiet, settled kind of feeling, less exciting than joy, but often more lasting. Say it with me, contentment. Imagine someone sitting on their porch at the end of the day, watching the sky change color and simply thinking to themselves, "There's a real sense of contentment in moments like this." Repeat. There's a real sense of contentment in this. As the evening settles in and the noise of the day fades, your mind often turns inward, thinking more deeply, questioning, reflecting, rather than just reacting. Basic English calls that thinking a lot or being thoughtful. The advanced, more precise adjective is introspective. Introspective describes someone who examines their own thoughts and feelings closely, looking inward rather than outward, often during quiet moments. Say it with me. Introspective. Picture a friend noticing you're unusually quiet during dinner and asking, "You okay? You seem pretty introspective tonight." And you answer, "Yeah, just been thinking a lot about some things." Nothing bad, just reflective. Repeat. I've been feeling pretty introspective tonight. Let's build a full evening scene here, the kind of visualization we've been using all day, because context is what makes these words stick. Picture a small kitchen, warm yellow light from a single lamp, the faint smell of something cooking, rain tapping gently against the window. Two roommates are sitting at the table. One stirring a pot, the other scrolling quietly through their phone before finally setting it down. The first one says, "Long day?" The second nods slowly and says, "Yeah, honestly, kind of an emotional one. I keep replaying this conversation I had earlier. I don't know why it's sticking with me so much." The first one turns from the stove and says, "That sounds pretty introspective for a Tuesday." The second laughs softly and says, "I guess so, but there's actually something kind of gratifying about it too, like I finally understand something about myself I didn't before." The first one nods and says, "That's a good way to look at it. Most people avoid that kind of reflection completely." The second one takes a breath and says, "I think that's why I feel this weird sense of contentment right now. even though the day itself was messy. Now let's switch roles one more time. And I want you to take the first roommate's part this time, starting from the very beginning. Here's the opening line. Long day. Pause here and respond naturally, as if you're really the second roommate sitting at that table. When you're ready, here's an example. Yeah, honestly, kind of an emotional one. I keep replaying this conversation I had earlier. I don't know why it's sticking with me so much. After a day like that, sometimes the most valuable thing you can do for yourself is genuinely restore your energy, not just rest physically, but refresh your whole state of mind. In simple English, get energy back or feel better. The more elegant verb is rejuvenate. To rejuvenate means to make someone feel young, healthy, and full of energy again. To restore vitality after being drained or exhausted. Say it with me. Rejuvenate. Picture someone stepping out of a warm shower at the end of a long day, sighing with relief, and saying, "That completely rejuvenated me. I actually feel human again." Repeat. That completely rejuvenated me. And when you think honestly about the goals you're working toward, not just casually wishing for something, but genuinely striving for it with real intention, basic English says, "I want to," or "I hope to." The more powerful, more determined verb is aspire. To aspire means to have a strong desire or ambition to achieve something, usually something meaningful or difficult, requiring real effort and direction. Say it with me, aspire. Imagine someone talking quietly about their future plans, saying, "I aspire to run my own business someday. It's been the plan for years now. I'm just slowly building toward it." Repeat. I aspire to run my own business someday. When you finally reach a goal like that, or even just a smaller version of it, there's a very particular, deep kind of satisfaction that goes beyond simple happiness. In basic English, I'm happy I did it. The precise, deeper noun is fulfillment. Fulfillment means a feeling of satisfaction from fully achieving your potential or a meaningful goal. A sense that something important in your life has been realized. Say it with me. Fulfillment. Picture someone reflecting after finishing something they'd worked on for years, saying softly, "I've never felt this kind of fulfillment before. It's different from just being proud." Repeat. I feel a real sense of fulfillment. And the way someone pursues these goals matters just as much as the goal itself. Because doing something with your whole heart, without holding anything back, with genuine sincerity, is a quality worth naming precisely. In simple English, he really means it, or she tries her best. The advanced adverb is wholehearted, or more commonly used as wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly means doing something with complete sincerity, commitment, and enthusiasm, without any doubt or reservation. Say it with me, wholeheartedly. Picture a mentor encouraging a student and saying, "If you commit to this wholeheartedly, I genuinely believe you'll get there. Half effort just won't get you the same result." Repeat, commit to it wholeheartedly. Let's slow down. for a phonetics moment one more time here, because reflective, emotional English often has a softer, slower rhythm than fast-paced workplace English, and it's worth hearing that contrast clearly. Take the sentence, I feel a real sense of fulfillment. In quick, careless speech, this could rush together and lose its weight. But in genuine, sincere speech, native speakers actually slow down slightly on emotionally important words, giving them space. Listen to the difference. Rushed. I feel a real sense of fulfillment, said quickly, almost flat. Now sincere, natural pacing. I feel a real sense of fulfillment with a small, natural pause and slightly lower pitch on fulfillment, making it sound genuine rather than robotic. Try that slower, more sincere version with me. I feel a real sense of fulfillment. Notice how a small pause and a gentle drop in pitch can completely change how emotionally honest a sentence sounds, even with the exact same words. Now, here's a habit I want you to build into your actual life, not just this video, because this is the exercise that turns passive vocabulary into active spoken fluency. I want you to practice describing your surroundings out loud, right now, using some of today's vocabulary, the same way we've been describing scenes all day. Look around wherever you are. Notice something you can see. Notice something you can hear. Notice how you actually feel in this exact moment. Then say it out loud, in full sentences, using today's words if they fit naturally. Let me give you an example first, so you can hear how it sounds. If I were doing this right now, I might say, there's a lamp on my desk. Its light is warm, almost golden. I can hear faint traffic outside, a little congested sounding, actually, cars moving slowly. And honestly, right now, I feel a quiet sense of contentment, just sitting here, talking to you. Now it's your turn. Pause the video, look around you, and describe your own space out loud in English, using at least 2 or 3 words from today if you can, whatever fits what you're actually seeing and feeling. There's no wrong answer here. The goal is simply to make the words come out of your own mouth, connected to your own real environment, because that's exactly what turns memorized vocabulary into something you actually own. Let's do one more full contextual conversation before we move into the final stretch, because I want you to hear how naturally these evening reflective words can blend with the more assertive professional ones. We learned earlier in the day the way real fluent speakers move fluidly between different registers depending on the situation. Picture a phone call, late evening, one friend lying on their bed, phone against their ear, the other walking home under streetlights. The one lying down says, "So how was the rest of your day? After that whole meeting thing?" The one walking answers, "Honestly, it turned into a mess. We had this huge disagreement, but we actually managed to compromise in the end, which felt kind of gratifying, not gonna lie." The first one laughs and says, See, I told you, you're way more resilient than you give yourself credit for. The second one sighs, a little tired but content, and says, maybe, but I definitely need to unwind tonight. My brain is completely fried. The first one says same. Honestly, I've just been sitting here feeling kind of introspective, thinking about where this whole year is heading. The second one, now clearly nearing home, says, that's fair. I think I'm finally starting to feel like I'm actually building towards something I genuinely aspire to, which is a nice feeling to end the day on. Now, switch roles with me one final time. I'll read the first line again, and you respond as the second speaker. Here it is. So, how was the rest of your day after that whole meeting thing? Pause and answer naturally, in your own words, using whatever today's vocabulary fits. When you're ready, here's an example. Honestly, it turned into a mess. We had this huge disagreement, but we actually managed to compromise in the end, which felt kind of gratifying, not gonna lie. Before we move into the final review, I want to teach you one more listening skill, because this one specifically helps with emotional, reflective English, like what we just practiced, where people speak more slowly but sometimes trail off, hesitate, or restart a sentence mid-thought, which can genuinely confuse learners who are used to clean textbook sentences. Real speech is messy. People say things like, I don't know, I guess I feel like, honestly, it was a good day. Notice how that sentence restarts itself twice before finally landing on the actual point. Instead of getting lost trying to understand every restart, train yourself to wait for the final, complete thought to that and respond to that. Try this with me. Imagine someone says, I mean, it's not that I don't like the plan. It's just, I guess, I have some concerns about the timeline. The real content, once you strip away the hesitation, is simply, I have some concerns about the timeline. Practice picking that out and responding naturally. I hear you. What specifically worries you about the timeline? Repeat that response with me. I hear you. What specifically worries you about the timeline? All right, it's time for our fluency round. And here's how this works. I'm going to move quickly now through every single word we've covered today, one right after another. No long explanations, just the word and a short, natural sentence. And I want you saying each one out loud with me, keeping the same fast pace, because this is where everything from today locks into place as real spoken fluency rather than passive memory. Ready? Here we go. Quickly, right with me. Groggy. I woke up groggy this morning. Invigorated. That walk left me invigorated. Methodical. She's incredibly methodical about everything. Procrastinate. Stop procrastinating and just start. Prioritize. We need to prioritize this task. Bustling. The market was absolutely bustling. Congested. The roads are so congested today. Picturesque. What a picturesque little town. Monotonous. The job got monotonous fast. Backlog. I've got a huge backlog to clear. Delegate. Just delegate it to the team. Streamline. Let's streamline this whole process. Reservations. I have some reservations, honestly. Concede. Fine. I'll concede that point. Candid. Thanks for being so candid with me. Blunt. He can be pretty blunt sometimes. Compromise. Let's just compromise on this. Articulate. She's incredibly articulate in meetings. Banter. I love our little banter. Reminisce. We always reminisce about college. Empathize. I really empathize with you. Unwind. I just need to unwind tonight. Malfunction. The machine keeps malfunctioning. Glitch. It's probably just a glitch. Troubleshoot. Let's troubleshoot this together. Innovative. That's a genuinely innovative idea. Resilient. You're more resilient than you think. Perseverance. It took pure perseverance. Gratifying. It feels so gratifying to finish. Contentment. There's real contentment in this moment. Introspective. I've been feeling pretty introspective. Rejuvenate. That shower completely rejuvenated me. Aspire. I aspire to do more. Fulfillment. I feel real fulfillment right now. Wholeheartedly. I believe in this wholeheartedly. Look at that. You just spoke 33 advanced C1 to C2 words and phrases, one after another, in complete natural sentences, without stopping, without hesitating, right along with me. That is not a small thing. That is real, active, spoken fluency, and it happened in less than 2 minutes just now, on top of everything else you practiced across this entire video. If you stayed with me through the whole day, morning to evening, groggy to fulfilled, you've now got somewhere around 60 to 70 pieces of genuinely useful, genuinely natural, advanced vocabulary sitting in your mouth, not buried in a notebook you'll never open again. So here's your one task, and I want it to be specific and measurable, not just a vague practice more. Before you close this video, I want you to write one comment, just one sentence, using at least one word from today, describing something real about your actual day. Not a test answer. A real sentence about your real life. Something like, my commute today was so congested, I almost missed my meeting. Or, I finally feel a sense of contentment after finishing a project I've been procrastinating on for weeks. Whatever's true for you, write it, post it, and if you can, come back tomorrow and read a few other people's sentences too, because seeing how other learners use the same words in completely different situations is genuinely one of the fastest ways to make vocabulary permanent. If today's format helped you, the way we walked through an entire day and let real vocabulary arrive naturally inside real moments. Instead of just handing you a dry list, make sure you're subscribed to Natural Word English and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. CC, because every video here follows this exact same principle. Real context first, advanced vocabulary second. Always grounded in situations you'll genuinely live through. Thank you for spending this much time and this much focus with me today. That's not nothing. That's real commitment to your own growth. I'm Emma. This has been Natural Word English, and I'll see you in the next lesson.
Take care of yourself.
Keep speaking out loud, even when no one's listening. And I'll talk to you soon.